Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of EyeOnOshkosh. I'm your host, Cheryl Hentz. We've got a split show tonight for you, a couple of different things happening. So I'm very pleased to welcome in this first half, or first segment, I should say, a gentleman whose name is Chip Wood. Please, no jokes, especially when you hear what he does. Besides being a chaplain in his everyday life, he is the executive director of Rebuilding Together Fox Valley. And this is a nonprofit organization that helps make critical repairs to people's homes and in nonprofits. It's based on income for people who are individuals and have their own homes that they're needing things done in. But it works on an income scale requirement. So we're going to find out all about the things that they do tonight. So, Chip, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. Tell us, I kind of gave it a little bit of an introduction here, but tell us about how Rebuilding Together Fox Valley got started, when it got started, why it got started, that kind of thing.
So Rebuilding Together Fox Valley is part of a national network of affiliates. There's 117 of us across the country that does this, and it started in the early 1970s in Midland, Texas. Where there was a group of neighbors that saw this older woman's house just falling apart, and they came together and just did everything that they could to repair it. And she said, "This kind of feels like Christmas in April." That name stuck, and they did it again year after year, and it began to grow into a regional movement. And then as it grew into a national movement, they decided to rebrand it as Rebuilding Together, and started doing things year-round besides just the April date. Rebuilding Together Fox Valley began in the year 2000, and we're so happy to be 24 years strong and counting, and can't wait to do 24 more years.
Wow, started in 2000. I didn't even hear of you until, I want to say maybe about a year or two into COVID. I'm thinking maybe it was around COVID, but that was still, even at that, you would have been here 20 years already.
I think that's the challenge with some nonprofits, especially some of the smaller ones. Like, there's not a lot of funds available to be able to do marketing and outreach and advertising like that, especially when you're just starting out. So it gets really challenging. But as the organization grew, we tried to have a much larger focus on that and being able to reach out and do some good with the community.
Well, we're reaching out tonight, so that's a good thing. For folks who are listening to us on the radio, they have a website. And I will try to remember to repeat it a couple times throughout the show. For those viewing us, it's up on the screen right now. But for those of you listening to us on the radio, their website address is RTFV, for Rebuilding Together Fox Valley, rtfv.org. So we're going to talk a little bit more about it, and if you need something done, please feel free to go to their website and fill out the application and so forth. So tell us what kinds of things you do for clients, Chip.
So we have three separate initiatives. The first one is our most popular one and the most impactful one that we have right now, which is called Fall Prevention. And this is where we work with other nonprofits. We work with healthcare providers, but our primary partner are the fire departments and first responders, the absolute heroes of this community. When they encounter someone that's fallen in their home, they'll make a referral, which goes to both us and the Aging and Disability Resource Center, and we'll both get in contact with that individual and see what we can do to be of assistance. Like you did mention, we do have that income qualification, which is 80% of the county median income level, which I believe is about $55,000 for a single individual in Winnebago County, and you have to own your home. The reason we don't work with rentals is that if rentals need modifications, it's a requirement of the landlords to be able to provide it to them. And we've tried a couple of times to work with landlords, but sometimes their requests are beyond our capabilities, so we've kind of been sticking with the homeowner approach. But with the Fall Prevention Initiative, it's absolutely transformative. We're able to do grab bars. We can do a toilet seat riser with or without handles. We'll do a bathtub transfer bench or a shower chair. We'll do anti-slip grip strips in the tub or shower floor, and we'll also do night lights throughout the home. These 5 modifications and repairs have been proven to be 93.65% successful in keeping people from falling again in their home. 93.65% of the time. So there's people that need to, if you've fallen in a home, if you're worried about falling in a home, please reach out to us. We can usually do the work in less than 2 hours. Our team is just fantastic, and they're able to very quickly and then be able to age in place in the home that you own. We offer this service throughout an entire geographic footprint, which is Outagamie, Calumet, Winnebago, and now Fond du Lac County. The second program that we offer is called Safe and Healthy Housing, and that just stacks a whole bunch of additional modifications, repairs onto the basic fall prevention initiative that we can do. We can take a look at fire safety throughout the home. We can take a look at there's additional stair rails. We can take a look at the stairs to see if they're safe. In some circumstances where we have additional funding, we can take a look at some larger things, like sometimes we can do roofs and water heaters and furnaces, but that's only in areas where we have additional funding to be able to do some of those. But all in all, we can do I think roughly about 32 different modifications and repairs in the home for these individuals. The third initiative that we have is called Community Revitalization. As you spoke of before, this is working with nonprofits. We'll go in and help do some refreshing, some light modifications and repairs for them. But what's great about the Community Revitalization Initiative is we'll partner nonprofits with businesses that are looking to do volunteer days, things along this nature, and we'll be able to do an incredible amount of good in a single day. It's completely transform their facilities. Some of our greatest successes have been working with Beaming Inc. a couple of years ago, a horse therapy related program that works with just some incredible individuals with different abilities.
They're going to be on the show, I believe, sometime in October or November.
So. They're just fantastic.
Yes, they are.
I just adore them to
Equine
death.
therapy is a
huge
thing, very important and very
wonderful
successful
stuff
also.
to do.
So you work with them, okay?
Absolutely. And other than this, the most recently we helped 3 different nonprofit childcare providers and helped out and completely redo their playground areas and all sorts of things there. So people interested in that type of application, you can also reach out on the website and just go under Community Revitalization.
Okay, wonderful. All of these things are, like you said, really important for keeping people safe in their homes, keeping them healthy as well at the same time, and certainly what you're doing with nonprofits is really super important as well. Now, the application, they can complete that online, or do they have to print it and then fill it out and mail it somewhere?
No, it's completely available to do online. Some people prefer to have a paper copy, which we're happy to mail out and do that as well. But yeah, we try to make it as low barrier and easy access as possible. The majority of the questions are like, what do you need done and how can we help you? So it should be fairly simple to do.
Yeah, and then how do they, obviously there's probably an income level box that they check or something. How do they show proof of income then? Is that done at a second time you contact them when you get their application? How does the process work?
There's an opportunity for people to attach a document for verification, and I think we have like 5 or 6 different options that people can use to provide that verification. It's pretty simple. I think it's like a tax statement or something from Social Security, which a lot of our clients are utilizing. Then otherwise, if you're mailing in the application, you print it off on them too, you can just attach it right there then. But we're pretty good at making it very clear what we're looking for.
Sure. And then once you notify them that they've been approved, how long does it generally take for you to get a time set up and to go and complete the work?
We move pretty quick. We kind of make a joke about it that Chris, who does our home modifications and repairs, is bored a lot because he's really good at his job. Most of the time we're waiting on people to call us back. So we try to be as flexible as possible. You know, some people aren't available the day that we swing out there. As we're kind of expanding, we're having to kind of batch people together, but we try to say that we can have everything done in less than a month.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really, I think that's very fast in today's time and marketplace. Now, how are you funded? Where do you get your money from to be able to do this at no cost for people?
We have some amazing community partners that have different various foundations and grants that we apply for. They're just fantastic, and the generosity of these people year after year is absolutely incredible. We also host a few different fundraisers. We're actually having one on October 4th down in Fond du Lac County. We're calling it an old-fashioned razzle.
Yeah,
and if
we're going to talk about that.
Oh my goodness, you can get those tickets on our website as well. But most of the time it's just grant funding that we do. We have a couple of contracts with some of the aging and disability resource centers, like one in Winnebago County and the aging unit up in Outagamie County, and we're working on developing the same relationship down in Fond du Lac County. What's amazing is seeing the community identify the need and how important the work is, and being so willing to fund and saying, what else can we do for you? So it's just amazing.
All right, wonderful. Now the cruise, is it, well, I suppose it depends on what you're doing. Is it just one person who goes out, or is it more than one? And more importantly, are they bonded and or insured?
We are not bonded and insured. We don't have to have a license for the work that we're doing. However, the people that we have doing the projects have to go a pretty rigorous training program. Chris, our modification and repair specialist, has been in construction for over 20 years. He can do most of our projects with one hand and drinking coffee in the second hand.
Okay.
So it takes a great deal of skill, and anyone that goes along with him to help, it would just be a second pair of hands more than anything. We do have a few volunteers that are also equally skilled, but they usually have to go through a pretty rigorous training process before we allow someone to go into a home and do some work on our behalf. Installing the grab bar is fairly easy, but if you do it wrong, it could have pretty big consequences. So we make sure that the person is able to have that, confidence and expertise to be able to do it. And then we make sure to test every single one that we do that has to at least support our weight, and we'll give it to the point where we will shake it as hard as we can to show that it is just not going to be moving at any point, so the person can rely on the safety there.
Well, the reason I asked about the insurance is I own a home, and I know several years ago when we were having some work done, I always do ask for a proof of general liability insurance before I let someone start. And because I want to make certain that if they fall or they hurt themselves somehow, they've got coverage, but I also want to make sure if they somehow damage my property, as this one particular contract did, that they've got insurance coverage to pay for it. He fell off of his ladder and landed on top of one of our bushes. It was a big bush, and fortunately he didn't get hurt, but the bush was permanently damaged, from the fall and his weight, and so we needed to have that taken care of, and so that's why I was asking about the insurance, because unknown things happen at times, so
yes, we do have a pretty robust insurance policy. It's kind of mandated through our national office.
So let's talk a little bit before we wrap up about this fundraiser coming up. This is a clever name. I mean, everybody in Wisconsin, I think, knows what an old-fashioned is. People drink them on especially Friday nights when you're out for fish fries, I sit and listen to people at the bar as they're ordering, and it's old-fashioned sweet with fruit, olives in mine. It's interesting. So this is called an old-fashioned tasting razzle. And people are going to be tasting different old fashions. Is that what the deal is?
Absolutely, yeah. This is just an
and who's
absolute
going to be making
blast.
them?
It's actually going to be done by the staff at Thelma Sadoff Center for the Arts down there. They shot us the recipes that they're going to be using, and there's 6 different old fashions that we'll be doing, and they knocked it out of the park. They are so creative and clever. We're working with Crave Catering down in that area as well, and the staff at the Thelma are just amazing. This is going to be a fantastic partnership. One of the neatest things is that we have a challenge grant from the Agnesian Healthcare Foundation that they will match every dollar that we raise up to $100,000.
Oh, wow.
So we're really hoping to have a great turnout and have some great activities out there for the people. Amazing committee and just an equally amazing fall prevention coalition down in Fond du Lac County.
Other things to do during the fundraiser, or is it just basically sampling different old-fashioned recipes?
Oh, there'll be plenty of food. Yeah, Crave Catering is going to be providing some incredible stuff. We're really looking forward to their creativity as well. We're going to have some activities, some raffles for things to be able to do. We try not to be one of those organizations that talks at you the entire time at the event, so there's going to be lots of opportunities to network and get to know. So our staff will be there and our board will be there to answer some questions. Representatives from the Standing Strong Against Falls Coalition will be there to kind of share the work that they're doing in the community. But more than anything, we're just there to kind of celebrate how forward-thinking this group is and how invested they are in the community.
Sure. So are the events that are going on that night then, Chip, are they geared more toward adults? Is this more of an adult thing, or is it a family-oriented event?
This is an adult-oriented event. Yes, you got to be 21 to come.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the fact there's alcohol there.
Excellent. Well, very good. Well, I'm glad that we had a chance to get you on the show, and thank you so much for what you're doing and your crew are doing out in the community. This is so needed. It really and truly is. We've been putting up the website throughout this segment. If you're listening to us on the radio, the website address is RTFV, that's F as in Frank, rtfv.org. So you can look online what they do. You can complete an application online. You can see the income requirements to see if you're eligible or not. And if you're in doubt and you're not sure, just go ahead and fill out the application. And if you don't qualify, they will certainly let you know. But if you do, then they'll get you scheduled to have some things done. So thank you so much for being here and for what you do. And good luck on October 4th. What time is that?
From 6 to 8:30 p.m.
6 to 8:30. Okay, very good. And that information's on their website as well. So thanks again for being here.
Thank
we
you so
appreciate
much.
it very much and for what you're doing. We're going to take a real short break. When we come back, we will be joined by some folks from the Oshkosh Civility Project. We will be right back.
Problems. The ones nobody talks about at cocktail parties. We go looking for them. No matter the obstacles, no matter the odds, we surround a community's most critical problems, and we fight. United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community. Will you?
Nearly half of children with autism wander away from safe places, such as their home or school. If you ever see a child walking alone, remember the 3 S's. Stop to help, seek assistance from police, stay until they arrive. If a child with autism is missing, immediately search places that pose the most danger, such as nearby water and busy streets. To learn more, visit missingkids.com/aware.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for help with food, healthcare, and other resources.
211, how can I help you?
Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211, get connected, get help.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Hello, and we are back. That caught me off guard just a little bit. Anyway, welcome back. Thanks for joining us on the other side of that break. We're joined now. I need to change my sheet here. We've got Sue Panek to my right, and to her right is Alex Hummel. I think, Sue, I know you've been on before in a different capacity.
Yes.
Alex, have you been on before?
Years ago.
It was a long time ago.
Also different capacities.
Yeah, when you were with the Northwestern.
And also one time with Oshkosh, Christine and Domestic Abuse Services.
Yes,
too.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's very right. Well, it's nice to have you back on tonight
Thank you.
again. And this evening they are on in the capacity of being involved with the Oshkosh Civility Project. And Sue is the co-chair of the Oshkosh Civility Project. And Alex, you are a steering team member.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to keep saying Oshkosh Civility Project because I'm going to screw it up at some point, and I'll just say OCP.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and for folks listening to us on the radio, the website address is OshkoshCivilityProject.org. OshkoshCivilityProject.org, and there it is for those of you watching us on YouTube or cable access or however you're accessing this program. So welcome to both of you for being here. Wanted to have you on because civility is something our society needs more and more of, and especially in these days. I don't have to tell you guys, we're kind of a mess as far as society goes. We don't treat each other well. We are rude to people. We are short-tempered with people. We are doing just a whole lot of things to people that we shouldn't be doing. So talk to me a little bit about what the Oshkosh Civility Project is and why it got its start, how it got its start, and so forth.
Well, about 14 years ago now, Oshkosh Civility Project was born based on some other projects that were kind of bubbling up around the country. And one of our co-founders here in Oshkosh, Walter Scotty, Scotty, we call him Scotty, Walter Scott, was visiting some family out west in California, and in the community that his family lived in, there was a sort of a civility movement percolating because there was a general concern about the tenor in the community, about council meetings and school board meetings and letters to the editor. And I think Scotty thought, sounds a lot like my community. I'm concerned about those things too.
Yeah.
And so doing a little bit more investigation, sure enough, there's another project in Duluth, and there's a project here and there. So he gathered some material, came back home, and said, I think we need to start a conversation about civility in Oshkosh, and rallied some volunteers and started this grassroots movement. And here we are now, 14 going on 15 years later, and we think it's still a relevant topic. As you point out, Cheryl, it still needs to be addressed. And, it's this question about what can we do as individuals, not just as a broad community, to be practitioners.
Absolutely. And before we get into the real specifics of what you guys do and so forth, I was noticing on your website that it talked about practicing civility toward each other and toward the planet. And I kind of looked at that. I read it a couple times to make sure I wasn't misreading it. But what does that mean, practicing civility toward Mother Earth? Tell us what that means.
Well, I think it's different for everybody. For me, it's do I recycle? Do I waste water? To me, that's what it's being good caretakers of our community.
Good stewards of our Earth.
Of our Earth, right.
Yeah.
And I think our Native American friends have it. I mean, they understand this. And I think we could learn a lot from how they protect and respect Mother Earth.
Okay.
So to me, that's what it is. To Alex, it might be something else. I don't know.
I think that's pretty much it. You just want treating the Earth almost as like an individual, and how do you interact with people? How do you interact with your planet? It's rare, and I'm kind of a nerd in this regard. I'm interested in this stuff. If you look around this vast cosmos we've got, aren't too many Earths that we can find so far, and so it's a rare thing, and we just want to make sure that we are good caretakers in our temporary time here.
Yeah. Well, and we're all probably, Sue, you and I are in the same age bracket. Alex, you're younger, but I'm sure you can still remember, back from like the 70s when the commercials were out there. It was about littering, basically. And you talk about our, Native American friends. There was an Indian standing on the sidewalk, maybe on the curb, I'm not sure, and someone threw a whole bunch of trash out their car window and it landed at his feet. And the spot ended with a tear rolling down his face. Do you guys remember that?
I do remember that.
I do.
Yeah, and it's still so true today. It is so true even today as we sit here listen to me, in 2024.
Right.
I want to go back in time, I think.
But you even think about that campaign, because the next part of that was to teach children. It was give a hoot, don't pollute.
Yes, yep.
And we
By
had this
Woodsy Owl, wasn't it?
Woodsy Owl,
Woodsy
yeah.
Owl.
I believe it was.
Woodsy Owl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think generation by generation, I think we've learned a little bit more. I can remember, and I'll admit this, sitting in school, they made this presentation. I went to Oshkosh West, and we had this all-school presentation in the auditorium, which is now Alberta Kimball Auditorium. And, you know, they were showing these different things on the screen, and it was all about, you know, taking care of the earth and not littering. And I kind of sat there and I thought, whatever, this is not going to happen. This is not going to be a concern. And I even said to my friends, I said, do you believe this? What is this all? You know, so I'm not proud of that attitude, but that was back in the 70s, you know.
Sure.
Who knew how bad things would get with our earth and the shape that it would be in?
But think about
You know.
some of the discussions that they have about what's happening with our earth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have people on the divide.
Yeah. Yep.
So is it possible for us to agree that to save our earth is an important thing, and however we do that, whether you believe one way or the other,
Yeah.
is that something we can agree on?
Yeah.
And so if we can find points of agreement, I think we'll find that we agree on a lot more than what we disagree. But we also need to build a safe community where if I disagree with you, I need to know that it's safe for me to be able to do that. That
Yeah.
I'm not going to be, not going to be retribution, there's not going to be bullying, there's not going to be all those things.
Right.
But so we don't want to stop discussion, we want to encourage discussion. We
Right.
want people to be listening, we want people to be sharing their ideas.
Polite, safe, civil discourse is what
Right.
we need in society. And so that kind of leads us back into a lot more of what's going on in our society. We are an uncivilized society. And I don't know at what point we started getting this way, but I do know certainly in the last 8 to 10 years, from a political standpoint, we have gone way off the rails in a big way. I don't care what side of the fence you're on politically, we have gone off the rails. And so I guess that's one of the things that I want to talk about. But before we get to that, you, Sue, had provided us with some slides, and I want to take a look at those now and just sort of go through them slide by slide and tell us what we're going to be seeing here. So if we can bring up the first one. Here we go.
Okay, so
Let's
we
bring it
lost
back
the
up.
slide. We lost the slide.
Bring it back up.
But I've got my slide, so I can look at it. The first slide, the first point of that slide
There
was,
it is.
what are we concerned about? And one of it was politics. And we're concerned about the discussion that's going on with politics, but for another reason, too, is if people are afraid to run for office because they might get bashed, or they might be bullied, or they could even be threatened. I mean, we're not going to have good people turning out to be our public leaders,
Right.
our political leaders. And so that's something that we have to be able to look at and say, well, we need to be more civil for that, for one reason. That would be one reason. Alex already mentioned the letters to the editor. That was they were starting when we had letters to the editor in the Northwestern, which was a regular feature at one point. They print them now if you submit them, but it used to be a regular feature if you remember. Some of them were pretty cruel.
I can't remember that so much because it was a while ago, but I think the Northwestern and probably all mainstream media now probably has things in place where letters to the editor can't be that way.
But
they
social
don't-
media.
Yes, I was
mean-
just going to say, they don't, I don't think, monitor, and we can come back to me for just a second here while we're chatting about this. I don't think that mainstream media or other social media sites really, I guess we'll leave, well, now we're back. Okay, guys. I don't think that anyone is really monitoring those posts that commenters are making. And they are awful, and they are cruel, and they use some of the filthiest language I've ever seen. And I'm not some shrinking violet, but, you know, there may be a time and a place for some kind of language, but in discussions about people, their positions, and things like that, it's not necessary, and it's not called for, and it's inappropriate.
Well, it shouldn't be a personal attack. If
right.
you're going to attack a policy,
Right.
that's different than attacking the person personally.
All right, let's go back to that screen now, please. There we go. Okay, so economic downturn.
That was at the time of the birth of the Civility Project here in Oshkosh. It was, just after 2008 when we all were experiencing the Great Recession. I think there was a lot of tension and a lot of stress, and we were seeing evidence of that manifesting in how people treated each other, lashing out, acting out, not being the best people they could be. So that, again, to the mood of the public, I think that kind of keys in on that. And then there was incidents and reactions around the country. At that time, there was some movements that started up at Rutgers and in Tucson, Arizona, based on community incidents that flared up. And I think just people wanting to stand up and say, we can do better than this.
Yeah.
But what are the principles? What are the guidelines we should be holding ourselves to elevate?
So let's go on to the next slide.
Well, which is very interesting because there it is, Alex.
Yep.
We can do better.
Yeah.
And we can do better. And they talk about Wisconsin nice, right? And people that come here, they talk about Wisconsin nice, and we are, as a community, hospitable or friendly. And we shouldn't just be that to strangers. We need to be that to one another.
Yeah.
And then we need to set a higher standard for the way that we act and the image that we portray. But it's not just an image, it's living this. You have to be able to live this. It should become more like a code of conduct to me. And then if we can provide the common framework, as Alex was saying, so that we can have those discussions that are safe for people to do on civility-related issues, because a lot of people, what does it mean to be civil? What is the Civility Project all about?
Yeah. All right. Next screen, please. All right.
This is an important idea, and I think a lot of people who maybe hear about the Civility Project, one of the first things they kind of are curious about is, well, are you asking me just to get along with everybody for the sake of getting along? And that's really not the point at all. It's really about being completely open and free to disagreement, but doing it in a way that people can actually listen to each other, hear each other and the ideas, the competing ideas sometimes, and find common ground. It's about improving the character and quality of interpersonal communication.
And it says, let's agree to agree. And I think, Sue, maybe that's going to your point, finding the areas in which we do have common ground with someone. Because we always hear, and I say it a lot, we hear it a lot, let's just agree to disagree. And okay, that's fine. You can agree to disagree. But even that, if you're going to disagree with someone, needs to be done in a civil way. And so I totally understand that. Okay, next screen then, please. There we go.
Okay, so this is the pledge that we have up on our website, is that we build a stronger, and I'm going to read this to the people that are listening on the radio.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
So the people watching this, I know you guys can read, but the people on the radio can't see this. We build a stronger and more diverse community by actively sharing our ideas and opinions with others in thoughtful and considerate ways. By practicing this basic commitment to civility, we learn and grow from one another, even in disagreement.
Okay. I think that's a wonderful pledge. Now, before we go on to the next screen, this pledge I know has been taken by different bodies of government in this community. Over the years, has it not been, the pledge has been taken by the Oshkosh Common Council, by the Oshkosh School Board, other
County Board.
County Board. But a question about that, when the pledge is taken, you've got a makeup of certain members on the board, the council, the county board, what have you. And then those people change over time. And even though the body as a whole has taken the pledge, I don't know that the incoming people even know that pledge was taken.
Sure.
So do you guys, over time, do you kind of revisit those governmental bodies and kind of remind them that, hey,
Well, that's a good suggestion, and you're starting the revisit tour tonight, I think. So we should do that. I think one of the things that we leave behind is our poster, and I think if you watch Oshkosh Common Council meetings or school board meetings, sometimes depending on the camera angle and who's speaking, you might catch a glimpse of that poster.
Because it is hanging up in the council chambers.
It is.
And
well, I think that's our next screen. Maybe. There it is.
There it is.
So let's talk about each of these. These are the basic tenets, I think, of the organization.
Yeah, and I think what's appealing to me, and I think a lot of people about this is not rocket science, although I love rocket science.
As a geek.
Exactly. You know, these are basic things that I think even when we were little kids probably knew were the right things to do. But, you know, we need reminders. This is not always easy, and let's admit that. Yeah. Let's be honest and just recognize that, you know, we're not all perfect and we're not all good at these things. But having these things present in the community, having a core team and of our organization, reminding when we're at the farmer's market or when we're visiting a local organization, that it's doable. It is very doable. Don't be overwhelmed by the idea that somehow you need to create this massive campaign to turn over your community. You just need to start with you. Yeah. And then practice this, model the way for our kids, model the way for the people in your organization, and you can make a tremendous difference. So that's powerful. It's a powerful little poster, and we like to get it out there as kind of evidence that we were here.
Absolutely. And I know people on the radio, listening on the radio, they can't necessarily see this,
right.
But we are going to go through the basic tenets. I've got them written down here. And, you know, you can go on the Oshkosh Civility Project's website, and you can see them all there. They also have these, kind of hard to see, it's a business card size card, and it has their information on the front, and then on the back, the various 9 tenets that we just talked about and had up on the screen.
And there are actually more than that. Dr. Forney, who is the kind of the guru of civility, others are involved as well, but he has closer to 25 or more.
Yeah, 25 rules or kind of guidelines.
Guidelines, yeah.
Encourages us to follow.
Well, let me ask this. I mean, why is this all so important? Can't we just say, all right, we're going to follow the golden rule. We're going to treat others the way we want to be treated. And would that not get us to the same place? Or I think not. I mean, part of it would get us to the same place. But you guys are doing other things and talking about other things and trying to get people to follow other codes of conduct, if you will. And that's not necessarily included in the almighty golden rule, right?
We were just talking about this earlier today, and you know, the golden rule is golden for a reason. It's a great rule, and I was reminded at the university recently, actually a couple of years ago, I guess now, by a speaker that there's an even more precious rule, and she called it the platinum rule. And the platinum rule was treat others the way they want to be treated.
But we don't know how they want to be treated, so that's a hard one.
And you can ask.
Yes.
Or you can listen and learn, and you can use your ears to talk, and try to understand somebody's needs and the reason why they believe what they believe, the reasons why maybe, you know, based on their life experience, they've got a certain perspective that just is different than yours, and so it caught me off guard, because when I heard, you know, the golden rule mentioned, and she kind of encouraged the audience, who's all heard it and who all thinks it's great, and I raised my hand, and then she said, well, have you heard about the platinum rule? And here I was, my one hand was kind of like, you know, suddenly retreating.
It was shrinking, sort of.
It was shrinking, and it was just a reminder, and I learned something that night, you know, that there are ideals out there that really are even more focused on the person across the table from you, however different, however you know, different their ideology is, that you should really be keying in on what's important to them. Learn from them.
Well, and that's really true, because, I mean, as I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk, yeah, we can all treat each other the way we want to be treated, but beyond that, we don't know the shoes that someone has necessarily walked in.
Sure.
Right.
And we don't know what has, you know, happened in their lives to inform the way they behave or the way they live their lives. Whether it happened some time ago or earlier that day. And so I guess that's where the listening comes in, and just asking them about, you know, who they are, what, you know, how do you feel about this or whatever. So,
but you had mentioned going over them, and for me, you know, there are some on here that I pick out, they're the hardest for me to do.
Well, why don't we go through them one by one, and then we'll come back to the slides.
Sure.
So the first one is speak your piece.
Kind of the mantra.
We're not doing slides right now, guys. We're done for a moment.
Yeah, the speak your piece idea is really sort of the campaign title that has bubbled up, you know, out west and up north, and that kind of overarches the entire package of messages and ideas.
And peace, though, is P-E-A-C-E.
Yes.
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 Because
Important distinction.
yes, because the radio people won't
Right.
know that.
Yes. Okay. All right. So pay attention.
That's my toughest one. You had to pick it out
Yeah.
first.
Well, it came up first on my list.
For me, I'm sometimes so busy in my head thinking what I want to say next that I'm not listening to the person who is talking to me. And I find that with people in just general conversation. I find that with my husband. I find that with my family, that there's something I want to get out and say, and so I'm not listening to what they say and paying attention to what they say because mine is more important. And I've just put me ahead of that person, and that's not the right way to do this.
Well, it is a tough thing to do, and I've kind of had to, as a reporter, and Alex, you've been there too.
Sure.
You're at meetings or whatever, and you're taking notes, but you still at the same time have to be listening. You're thinking about what you're writing because you've already just heard it, but then you got to keep another ear or both ears, if you can, on what is also being said, so you don't miss something else. So I've kind of got that a little bit more down than maybe your average person, but it still is very hard.
Yeah.
It really is, and you're still bound to miss something at
Right.
somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
All right, listen closely. This ties right in with it. Understanding other people's points of view, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think listening, and like I said before, you can talk with your ears, and I think when the message you're conveying to people, when you're just fully engaged and focused on what they're sharing, their background, their ideas, is you're telling them that you trust them, you want to learn from them, that you're totally focused on something that they're sharing now, and that goes a long way.
It does, and I'm going to bring this woman up because she's the one who said it, and so I can't take credit for her little quote or what she always says. But you talk about someone being uncivil to people and rude and nasty to people. Judge Judy. Now, so rude to people, so nasty. Those people are there, and she's making, or was making, $1 gazillion a year because these people are there. But the one thing that she always said that kind of stuck in my mind is we were given one mouth and two ears for a reason. And she would always say to people, "You're not listening. Put on your listening ears." And it's just so very, very true.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Be inclusive. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Well, I guess because of my background, it's always been important that everyone should be at the table. People with diverse backgrounds have so much to teach us. And the fact that a lot of people only think of inclusivity for people with disabilities, but it's everybody. And we don't always think about it, bringing everyone to the table.
Right.
And Alex and I were talking about this project that United Way of Greater Milwaukee was doing with some others in the community, and it was to reduce the rate of teen pregnancy in Milwaukee because it was one of the highest in the country. Actually, it was the highest in the country.
Wow.
And they brought together United Way, the community foundations, another group of foundations, and the city government, county government, the health departments, and they were all coming together saying, we've got to do something. What they agreed on was that we had to reduce this rate of teen pregnancy. Now, how they were going to do it, because they had faith community, they had everybody at this table, was how are we going to do this, because there were so many diverse ideas. But if they would have eliminated any one of those partners, it wouldn't have been successful. So they brought everybody together, and they agreed on what the issue was going to be to reduce teen pregnancy, and they decided to reduce teen pregnancy by 50% in 5 years, which is huge.
That is. Were they successful?
They did it in 4.
Holy cow. Really? In
They
4
did
years.
it. I got goosebumps. Because they worked hard at making sure that everyone had a spot at the table, that everyone, no matter what their belief was, they needed to be there. And everyone could kind of do this on their own, but it was still kind of like an orchestra. All these little parts came together to form this initiative, and they did it in 4 years.
Wow, that is amazing. Okay, this is a big one. Don't gossip. And the word gossip can be a relative thing.
Yeah.
It's depends on who you talk to. If I, for example, share something with someone else about someone, am I gossiping, or am I just informing them, hey, this is the deal with so and so. This is where they stand on such. It's a relative term. It very much is. And so, how does OCP, Oshkosh Civility Project, how do you guys, or your guiding forces, how do you define gossiping?
It's a great question. I think, to be quite honest, I think it's kind of getting to be an old-fashioned word, but I think the modern sort of manifestation of it might be this rampant social media culture we've got. And there's good things about social media, too. It can do some really great things for people and for community. But, it's really just sharing untruths and sharing personal information that maybe people certainly don't want to be made public. Mm-hmm. And if it was provided to you in a kind of trust, it's defiance of that trust. And that can be very damaging, to a relationship, to, family, to workplace, any kind of community setting. So I think that's how I look at it. You're really breaking a trust when you gossip, and it's hurtful.
Yeah.
And that's not good for civility. Those are certainly not principles of civility.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one that that I probably break more often than not.
I think, Cheryl, when we look at the poster and walk through these, we're all thinking about times that we've, I can rattle off stories. I won't. But I know I've got examples where I just fell down and I was not a good human being.
Well, certainly if someone says to me, don't share this with others. And as a reporter, people have told me many things.
Right.
You too.
Me too.
They've told you a lot of things over the years where they say this is off the record, and you better honor that.
Yeah.
Because if you do, they will become more trusting of you over time. Mm-hmm. But if you dishonor that and you go and print that or air that on the radio, I say that because I've been in both print and broadcast journalism. But if you destroy that trust that they've given you, you'll never get a second chance with that.
And that's fundamental. I think that's even, just everyday living. It's not just, professional consideration. I think that's something that we hold dear as human beings between one another.
Yeah, and I know just this last weekend I said something to a friend that, this person didn't say, don't share this with anyone or anything like that. But after I said it, I said, I don't know that they really want that known, so please don't say anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the rule that I try to live by is if I think it might be hurtful, or if I have to question whether this is gossip or not, it probably is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it was just something that I don't know if the person would care or not that it got out, but just in case they didn't want it to become public knowledge, I thought, I better say, just keep this under your hat.
Let me give you another example too.
Sure.
And I think, back to the social media forum, I see a lot of examples of this today where somebody sees what they consider to be something vile or untrue on social media, and it always shocks me when that person who's of good intention retweets or forwards or shares that thing and says, can you believe somebody's saying this? And I just want to encourage that person to pause. Think about what you're doing. Your intention is not to advance something or to further promulgate something that probably shouldn't be. Or that you even find disagreeable.
Well, even the political ads on TV, I mean, they're full of nothing but lies. And yet they're allowed to spew those lies forward. So I know we're running out of time here. We're down to about 10 minutes. I can't even believe this. All right, so very quickly then, show respect.
Pretty self-explanatory.
And be agreeable. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you have to kiss someone's ring. It doesn't mean anything like that. It just means, I guess, find ways or areas in which you can agree.
Challenge yourself, yeah.
Okay.
But also, I think if somebody gets maybe a little hot-headed with you, you don't have to be hot-headed back. You know, you can just say,
Well, that's tough.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is tough.
It is.
That's
But
a
I
tough
mean,
one.
especially if it's a personal attack, I mean, you can easily say to somebody, you know, I understand that we disagree on this, but you don't need to attack me personally.
Well, I want to bring that up after we get through
Sure.
these things, because I've got a whole little thing on here on that. Okay, apologize sincerely.
Mean it.
Yeah, mean it. Own
and
it.
give constructive comments, suggestions, feedback, and accept responsibility. You know, if we have done something, accept responsibility for that.
Yeah.
You know, those are great goals to shoot for. And so let's go back and finish up the screens here. I know there we go. I think maybe
I think we saw that one.
we saw that one. We're going back to the one that comes up right after the poster.
These are some of the ideas, these calls to action that we've got out there that really echo a lot of the things that we talked about
Yeah.
already. There's a lot of ways, I mean, even beyond that poster that we walked through, Cheryl, there's a lot of things that people can do
Yeah.
to continue and model the way.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
next screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Saying yes to civility.
Yeah.
And the Oshkosh Civility Project .org is up there again. It's kind of hard to see on a black screen, but it is OshkoshCivilityProject.org. So, you know, I talked about some of the things that have happened in the last 8 to 10 years, especially politically. You know, as a society, I think we're all on edge. We feel pulled in many different directions. Often there aren't enough hours in the day to do everything that we need to do or would like to do. So when something happens, we get upset. You know, if we're, for example, making a consumer complaint type call, we've got a problem with our cell phone, or we've got this or we've got that. We make a phone call. We are 9 times out of 10 getting someone where the job has been outsourced to another country. And it's not about, I don't want to deal with foreigners. It's, I do not have time to waste on trying to get someone to understand me or me to understand them. I can't understand what they're saying, you know. And that gets me frustrated faster than anything else. And then I start getting angry. I feel my blood pressure going up a little bit, and I'm just finally like, give me a supervisor. Because I don't have time to mess with that, you know. How do we do that? How do we, in a situation like that, maintain our composure, keep our cool, keep our blood pressure down, when there's already not enough hours in the day? And then we're stuck doing this.
First, you take a breath.
Yeah.
I think you really do. You have to sit. You have to take. I mean, they always said count to 10. Take that breath and just say, okay, this is not the situation I want. But this is the situation I'm in. How can we make it the best possible? And I feel your frustration on this because I know exactly what you're talking about. And I know there have been times where I have just gotten totally frustrated, where I've said, I'm not going to talk with you any longer. I hang up, and then I call again. And
But
see
then
if
you
I
start with the same thing all over again.
You do,
right?
but at least I've calmed down by that time.
Okay.
Because it's
See,
just
not
like,
me. Now I'm even more upset
This is not
because
working
I've
for us.
had to waste
Yeah.
more time calling back.
Sure.
This is not working for us, so
I have
I'm
to
going to
start
hang
over
up
again.
now, and then I just call back.
Okay.
And that's just one way that I can deal with it, but I do have to step back, take a breath, and say, okay. And then the other thing is, and I don't always do this, but I think about, well, that person is doing their job. And it's not his or her fault that they're in this position. If I have a problem, it's with the company. Because the
very true.
company has done this. They've outsourced the job, and if they have. And then it's my responsibility then to follow up with that company and tell them that, well, this is difficult because, you know, maybe you don't understand or they don't understand. And it's sort of like, in a sense, maybe vote with your pocketbook.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you change providers.
Yeah. All right.
It's an
Excellent.
interesting case study, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of us have been in that situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes multiple times a day, depending on what's going on.
You're
in your
already
life.
coming at it from a place of frustration, and
Yeah.
and that's a hard thing to
Yeah.
to manage. But yeah, Sue's right. I mean, there could be other options too. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I resort to email, where I can actually kind of like take that breath and then pause a little bit and and get it out there.
Yeah, the problem with that, though, is oftentimes, people are receiving an email and they're interpreting it with one tone,
Sure.
whereas you had a different tone in mind when you wrote it. It's all very complicated.
I think, what Sue is keying in there too, and this gets to your point right now, Cheryl, that, civility really challenges us to, as hard as it may feel and be sometimes, to see the best in people. That they're not here to mess with me, or they're not here to try and blockade me from getting justice. They're doing their job, and maybe they just don't understand the circumstances on this end of the phone or keyboard. So that's another thing we kind of challenge ourselves to.
Well, with only about 3.5 minutes left, I want to go back to politics for a moment, because here's my frustration. For example, you've got a candidate who their opposition or their supporters or their staff may say something about that candidate, about how they've voted on something in the past if they're an incumbent. And right away, that person's supporters or staff are saying, you're going negative, you're attacking this person. No, you're not attacking them. You are stating their position on something in the way they've voted on something in the past, or if they've not held an office before, you're stating their position on how they have stated what their feelings are or what their position is on something. When we're attacking someone personally, and we've seen it more and more, a politician who will attack someone by name calling, by talking, making comments about their physical characteristics, making fun of someone who has a handicap, things like that. Those are personal attacks, and they have absolutely zero place in any kind of political discourse or social media or anything. And there's where I see the difference, but people don't get that. They think, oh, you're talking about the way they voted on something, you're attacking them. How do we explain to people there's a difference? But more importantly, because I know our time is running out, we've got a really emotional election coming up, and tempers are already flaring. They've been flaring for a while. How do we keep things calm to the best of our ability when political discussions come up? With about a minute left.
Boy, I got this figured out real quick.
All right.
My personal take on this, again, channeled through that lens of civility, is politics is one thing, it's not everything. And we need to remember that, we can't just sort of sort ourselves or separate ourselves from people because of their political beliefs or ideologies. In fact, it'd be a pretty lonely world, if we were to do that. And we'd be in a state like Wisconsin, which is very, red and blue and purple and all the colors. You'd be losing a lot of friends. I think it'd be lonely. And so I think we just need to realize that politics is one part of life.
I've literally had to stop a conversation and say, you know what, I'm done with this conversation. I'm not discussing this. And yet people still try and push your buttons and get you to go somewhere. So, all right, closing thoughts. How can people get involved with Oshkosh Civility Project?
And we do need people to get involved. So we have a group of about 13, but we do a number of things. We write articles in the Oshkosh Northwestern. We're at the farmers markets both winter and summer, and so we need people to do those things with us. Actually, this week, I don't know when this is airing, but next week I'm actually going to the Jesuit Retreat House to do a presentation for the group there, and that will be an interactive presentation. So if companies want us to come out, we'll come out to companies, and we'll do interactive presentations with them. But to get them involved with us, we're just looking for people. We have about 4 meetings a year as a group, and then we have these activities that we do. So they can reach us at the OshkoshCivilityProject.org. And I guess that's probably the best way.
And the email is on the website,
It is.
right?
Yep.
So, okay, excellent. Well, I know Margie Davey was going to be your co-chair, was going to be here tonight, but she had another meeting that
she's at the Civility Board. No, I'm sorry. She's at the Sustainability Board.
Yes, so she's elsewhere here in this building, but so we miss her. But Sue Panek and Alex Hummel, we thank very much for being here.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I would like to thank Chip Wood for being here earlier in the show.
I love his name.
I still can't get over that name, but that's it. So anyway, thanks to the crew, and of course, always thanks to you. We'll see you next time. Take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.